Hi, Melissa. How are you?
I am doing great, thank you.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do professionally as well as personally, if you'd like to share a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Melissa Madriaga. I was born and raised in the Bay Area, and I currently live in Las Vegas. I have four adult children, two I birthed, two I inherited through my second marriage. Um, I have an English bulldog named Maggie, who my children call the favorite child. Um, My husband and I are recent empty nesters. I have been with Calix. I'll be celebrating 13 years. I lead the talent engagement and people operations team um, here at Calix.
You say you had four children. That's for adult children. That's amazing. Did you ever had to have the conversation either, with your partner or with yourself about like how am I gonna do this along with a career? Because it seems like both have been quite a part of your life.
My role model was my mother, and she actually worked for the same company for over 30 years. And she had two children. And I saw her and both my father get up and go to work every day and still raise a family. So for me, that was the model. So there wasn't any thought about whether I was going to have a family and have a career. That's what my mother showed to me, and I wanted to follow in her footsteps.
Wow, that's really beautiful because I firmly believe that what we see as part of our environment is what we become and then who we sort of turn into. When you had your first child, were you working at the time?
To be quite honest with you, I got pregnant. I found out, I think, a week before my college graduation.
Okay.
And so I I was working, but not in my profession, if you will. I was sort of just starting life, and the timing was quite a surprise. But when these things happen, you do feel lucky that this is what's going to happen. So I was very fortunate in that my mother-in-law at the time, she was a third grade teacher. And so she retired when my daughter was born to take care of my daughter. And so I just feel very fortunate that I had that type of support system that enabled me to continue working when it was time to go back to work.
No, that's amazing. So happy to hear that you have the support system so you can go back to work as well as, raise your child and then going forward your children. And that's one of the things that feels like it shouldn't have to be a choice. It should be like a norm. And did you ever feel that you had to make the decision to choose?
Divya, I know that has applied certainly to a lot of colleagues of mine, to a lot of friends of mine, but honestly, it it wasn't an issue for me, and I think it was more of a mindset of being having that strong support system in my mother-in-law and even my father-in-law and my own, mom at the time. I really felt like I couldn't do this by myself. I can't raise my child, my children by myself, and it wasn't all on me to do it. There was a family or a village, if you will, that was going to support me. And so I never felt like I'm choosing between a career and a family because I have this village that's helping me do that. So I think it was more mindset, but I have talked to a lot of colleagues and peers that did feel that they had to choose.
Wow, that's amazing. Again, it sounds funny that I'm saying that's amazing because it should be the norm. It shouldn't be a one-off that you hear. Did you ever in the journey of parenthood go through anything like unexpected or did plans have to change?
Absolutely. Getting married, you think that's forever, right? You never expect that that's not going to work out. And so when my first marriage didn't work out and my in-laws were such a strong support system, you know, um, and then that was falling apart. That was a scary time because that was such a strong support system. So was I going to lose that because this marriage didn't work out? So from a marriage perspective, that got really rocky, but my in-laws never faltered. They were always the grandparents, and that relationship, aside from, of course, I'm no longer married to their son, but the relationship and the support that they um, showed me and my children, that didn't falter.
That's beautiful to hear.
Yeah,
And
and I did try and go back to school. I think a lot of what we do is about timing, right?
yeah,
So during that time um, where the marriage was in transition, I was trying to go back to school, and that is, I wouldn't say a regret, but it didn't work out. So when I think about challenges and things that didn't work out, that I always ask myself now, like, is this the right time for X? Is this the right time for Y? Because in that, I learned that timing is everything. And so that's something that's always at the forefront of what I think about when I make decisions.
yeah, absolutely. That's so true. So when just maybe speaking a little bit about like when you say you went back to school, and that didn't work out, like what about that didn't work out?
I think it was just too much, trying
Okay.
to figure out sort of my new norm as a single parent and trying to make sure that the relationships, for example, with my in-laws and even with my ex, that was as stable as possible in this new norm. And then, of course, you go from seeing the kids all the time to sharing joint custody. And so, how do I ensure that they don't feel like they're no longer a priority in the new
Yeah,
norm? We're young at the time. And so, I think because I just felt like I have other priorities and I can't do it all, right? Like for my well-being, I
right.
can't do it all. And that's really hard when you grow up, you set a goal, you accomplish the goal, you have an ideal life, right? The family and the kids. And when that doesn't pan out, um, you have to adjust. And for me, it was about really saying what's important now. And schooling to me, it was important, but it wasn't the most important. And the kids weren't going to wait. They they were
Yeah,
going to continue to keep, growing and developing. And those relationships I needed to prioritize to adjust to that new norm, whatever it was going to be. And so school had to be put on the back burner.
yeah. No, I can completely understand. But I think it's very powerful that you knew at the time that you can't do it and you need to take a step back or you need to make certain adjustments. Things will slip off the plate. Your plate can only be so full.
You can't do it all well, right?
Yes.
Like you said, we choose to power through. And
Yeah.
and sometimes we are successful at doing that. But I think when you try and do it all and you're not in the right headspace, something has to give. And for me, that was school because you can always come back to school. You
Right.
sometimes you can't, I mean, you definitely can't, be with your kids as they're growing up again, right?
Right.
And like I said, though, I had to manage those relationships because they were such a strong part of my support system that if I wanted to continue to um, raise the kids well, and have my version of family, whatever that was at that time, and still continue with my career. You have to make some tough choices, and for me, it was the mental well-being before getting a master's degree.
That's a solid piece of advice that I think you've just given out without probably even realizing that you've given out some really powerful stuff.
I think I learned that the hard way, Divya, to be honest with you, where it got to a point where I was trying to do everything and finally decided that I needed help. So I reached out to see a therapist, and at that time it was sort of stigma to do that.
Okay.
It was many years ago, over 20 years ago. But that was probably the best decision I ever made, to go ahead and talk to someone, they're experts for a reason, um, to talk to someone to really help me realize that it's okay. Just because you set a goal, you can adjust the timing, and it's going to be okay. And so I think the other advice I would give would be, when you're feeling like the walls are, coming in, to reach out. It's okay to reach out, whether it's to a therapist or to family or friends, colleagues, even a boss, whoever you're comfortable with, like, reach out, because people, they can relate.
Yeah.
Even if you have the exact situation, they can relate and often give really sound advice that's hard to see at the time when you feel like the walls are closing in.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. Any advice you can share to women who are going through, a tough time, and whatever their goals are?
Yeah, what I would say is make sure to give yourself some grace, right? I think we forget that. I think as, you know, women who are trying to do it all, and we forget that it's okay if it doesn't work out the exact way we had intended. We can give ourselves some grace. We can reset. We can change timelines. We can change,
Yeah.
and we can change goals. So the advice that I would give is, whatever it is, it's okay. You and I talked about, whatever it is, it's meant to be, whether it's timing or something else. And so if it doesn't work out the way that we thought, the sky isn't falling, we just reset, reevaluate, and if it's a goal, we can reestablish that. It's okay. It's okay to give ourselves a little bit of latitude.
So, is there anything else that you want to share? Some things that maybe I didn't touch upon or anything?
No, I really enjoyed our conversation. Hopefully, if anyone is watching and leaves with anything from our conversation, it's that constant reminder that whatever it is, it's okay. And don't forget to give yourself a little bit of grace.